What's up, folks? Doing another best ball video here. We are back in the best ball Mania 2. Been a little hiatus because I've been drafting on DraftKings, which is only on the app. You can't draft on desktop, so it's really been impossible to make videos on there. And I was trying to max enter a contest. So that's why it's been a bit since you've seen me. Been a nice return, that's for sure. Got the 101 this draft, and I did one Best Ball Mania before recording this one, and I got Dalvin Cook at the 1-3. So that was fantastic. So we will, of course, go Christian McCaffrey. The return to the Best Ball Mania run good. So what I want to talk about a little today is second-tier tight ends versus elite quarterbacks. So they've all been going in the same range, right? Like Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Lamar. All those guys go in the same range. And then I think, maybe even you can consider Russ Wilson, who goes even later. But I strongly believe, after looking into some numbers today, Eckler going at the 1-5, that's a little strange. Not that it's crazy, but I just don't break ADP that much because I can get ownership on guys at ADP, so I don't really feel the need to take Eckler at 1-5. So anyway, getting back to what I was saying. The advantage you're going to get if one of those elite quarterbacks has their ceiling season compared to a Pitts, Hawkinson, or Andrews having a ceiling season is just a lot bigger. So I was texting some about this today, and those top quarterbacks scored like 390 raw points, right? I think Josh Allen had 396 half PPR, 4-point passing touchdown points. And even the guys that were like QBs number 4, 5, and 6 had like 360 points, which was like a 60-point gap over QB 12. And for guys like Andrew and Hawkinson, they scored like around 140 raw points, which is only a 25-point gap over tight end 12. And also guys like Tanyan and Logan Thomas scored just as many points as those guys. And it's, I guess, an argument of, do you think they can take a big enough step forward, like in the case of Hawkinson, to produce the same amount of advantage as an elite quarterback? And I think that the chance that outcome comes is almost zero. So if you were to give TJ Hawkinson a 25% boost on his catches and a 25% boost on his yards and a 50% boost on his touchdowns, he still really doesn't get to where he's giving you the same advantage as a Kyler or Dak if they are able to, get around 360 points or so. So some of these guys Goff and Baker Mayfield and these sort of mediocre quarterbacks, you can get the argument that it's easier to find quarterback points and harder to beat the mid to low end quarterbacks by that much. But some of these top end quarterbacks are beating those quarterbacks by more points than Hawkinson scored the entire season. So I don't really think that that's necessarily the case. I think that those quarterbacks are a much bigger advantage than the tier 2 tight ends. And then when you think about it, you're kind of hoping that Hawkinson turns into tight end 4 if everyone stays healthy, right? You're hoping that he's the best of the rest, because you're not really hoping that he's better than a healthy Kittle or a healthy Waller. Maybe equal, right? Which would still put him in the 2, 3, 4 category, distantly behind Kelsey. With Dak and Kyler, you're legit hoping that they can be quarterback 1. It's possible for them to be quarterback 1. And quarterback 1 is going to give you a lot bigger win percentage. I mean, we've seen over the years that with Mahomes' win percentage, his huge year. Hold on a sec, we're going to make some picks here. Taking a look at A.J. Brown, Najee. I have done Najee with Christian McCaffrey, so I might not do that one. I'm going to take A.J. Brown and think a little bit more about our other pick. Looks like we have some time here. Like, Kittle went 2-2 and Waller went 111. Huh. Strange. So we're definitely not going to take a tight end, which is fine. So, kind of between Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Michael Thomas. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to take DeAndre Swift. So I actually like Swift more than I like Clyde. And I haven't got a single McCaffrey-Swift combo, and it's just one that I've had in my head to get, and I haven't had a chance to yet, and I don't know when I'll pick McCaffrey again, and I don't know how many more of these drafts I'm doing, so I don't think that this is like a pick you should be making, generally. Like, you need to be taking ADP into account more than I did on my selection. Just like, I really want one team that has McCaffrey and Swift because I think Swift has the kind of breakout upside that McCaffrey had his second year. If you remember McCaffrey's second year, like, people were saying he was too small. He was going around the 2-3 turn. People were like, he's too small. He's not going to get the opportunity to have like a full workload. Cam Newton's going to steal touchdowns from him, so his touchdown upside isn't that big. So there was like a lot of like doubt in McCaffrey going into year two. Like, his year one was kind of similar to Swift's year one, where I believe he split with like Jonathan Stewart or somebody like that. I mean, and he did pretty good, kind of like Swift did. Just didn't have a ton of carries and caught his passes. And Carolina wasn't considered any like fantastic offense at that point. They had like Devin Funchess as like, their big wide receiver. So I do think that Swift has this like crazy 1,000 ceiling that like very few people do. I don't think he'll get enough carries to like actually hit it, but I just wanted to have one pairing where I have McCaffrey with Swift on a team, and I hadn't been able to make it happen yet. I would really want is like a McCaffrey Gibson Swift start, but like I have not had Gibson yet fall to the end of round two. I have seen it happen for other people, just hasn't happened for me, unfortunately. So I am interested definitely in a McCaffrey Gibson Swift, but I really don't know. Like, this might be the last time I get McCaffrey in Best Ball Mania 2 because I'm probably only going to do like 10 more of these after this one, I think. Yeah, I'm planning to do 10 more after this one, so there's like a good chance it's going to be my last McCaffrey. So, like I said, I just wanted to have this pairing one time. And I went A.J. Brown there, just I thought he was the best wide receiver available. Oh, Justin Herzig's in our draft. I wonder how he started. Barkley, Taylor, Cooper. Well, that's pretty good. Similar, like, to our start, really, Barkley, Taylor versus Swift, McCaffrey. It really depends what you think of Swift. I think that that's a pretty fair fight. And I would definitely take A.J. Brown over Mark Cooper. See who he takes with his next pick. See if he goes for his hyper fragile, takes J.K. Dobbins here, and then just like punts RB, or if he goes somewhere else. No, he decides to go Godwin. That pick makes sense. I might have went Dobbins there and then taken just a running back in the final round, but you also know I'm a lot higher on Dobbins than most people. So we still don't pick for quite a while. Boy, did those tight ends go off fast in this draft. That was kind of wild. I have tons and tons of ownership on basically all three of the top tight ends, so it doesn't make me sad to see other people get them at a higher ADP. Probably going to be looking at two wide receivers here. I just went on a whole spiel about how we don't really want to be taking like Pitts, Andrews, and Hawkinson at their ADPs when you've got Kyler Murray and Dak and Lamar on the board. I think that you're making the wrong bets there. I think you should be betting on those quarterbacks as opposed to the tier 2 tight ends. Basically, all the quarterbacks that you feel have a chance to finish as the number one quarterback, which for me, I think is five players. But if you want to like throw your Russell Wilson or something in there for your group, I don't think that's like crazy. So I have a feeling at the turn we'll be looking at something like a Bengals wide receiver and maybe like Deontay or Ayuk. I tend to side towards Ayuk there. Yeah. So pretty much who went off the board, who we expected to go off the board, went off the board. We can also pick Galladay. Not someone I super like. We're definitely going to take T. Higgins. I think we're just going to go T. Higgins and Ayuk here. And so the reason why we're not taking one of those quarterbacks here is just because they've been falling too much. And like I have just been able to get them some in the next rounds. And also, once we take Ayuk, we'll be kind of trying to set up for a Trey Lance stack. See if we can get Debo. I've been trying to get a few Trey Lance stacks that don't have Kittle in them, just because like if Kittle's hurt week 17 and the Smash week comes, Ayuk and Debo are versus Houston comes, and Ayuk and Debo are the guys that are healthy, then that can obviously be the $1 million winner for you as well. Second year wide receivers tend to have big jumps in production. So fairly happy with this team so far. Would I have been interested in any running backs had they fallen to us? Yeah, like if it would have been Dobbins or David Montgomery. I'm rising up on David Montgomery quite a bit with the news that Tariq Cohen is like struggling quite a bit to come back from his injury. Like he's a guy that if he's not at like 100%, then he's really not going to be very useful. So, because like he has just like a unique ability with his change of direction and quickness that like if he loses that, he's just like a small dude that's not doing much. I mean, as it is, David Montgomery last year had a much higher yards per catch than Tariq Cohen when Tariq Cohen was healthy. So I do think that the David Montgomery breakout, I do not expect him to be a top 10 running back. Like last year, I think he finished running back 4. Not expecting that. But for me, he's the end of a tier. I would much rather have David Montgomery myself than Miles Sanders or Josh Jacobs. So those guys are like a tier behind him for me. And then I'd rather have Sanders than Jacobs, but I don't really want either that much. I don't like the fact that Sanders has to face Washington twice during the best ball playoffs. It's just like super puke. I do realize injuries can happen. Defenses might not be what we think, but yeah, don't love it. Also, Miles Sanders kind of ripped up all the good defenses he played last year. He was very, very good against the good defenses. So unsurprisingly, Lamar, Murray, and Prescott are all still on the board. Well, Kyle Pitts is not. Josh Jacobs goes off. We have a guy who's taken 2 tight ends. I've done a little bully. He's got Waller and is the guy. One guy took Waller and Kittle. It was AK suited, not Justin. I'm on Herzig here, but this is the guy's team I'm looking at. See, I don't think that this is very good. And like definitely Justin Herzig, way, 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 way better player than me. So if you want to do what he does, obviously go ahead. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I'm not going to say that he's wrong. But from the work that I've done today, I believe that this is a mistake to take Mark Andrews ahead of Lamar Jackson, Prescott, and Kyler Murray. I think it's a mistake to take Hawkins instead of Lamar or Prescott. I think that those tight ends 4 through 4, 5, 6 are again going to end up with poor win percentages because of their, not because they're terrible or anything, but because of their. Wow, then he could have stacked Lamar with Mark Andrews and took Dak. I wonder if he's like set this to auto draft or something. And just has it like picking by his rankings. That's strange. Why would he do that? Oh, he has Amari? Oh, okay. I get it. I don't think that this. I think this Dak over Lamar pick is fine. So I guess that's what he was setting up by getting Andrews, was to have a good tight end and a good quarterback, but I just think it strains your other positions too much. And like, I'm more looking to have 3 either quarterbacks or tight ends as opposed to 2 of each. Because like I think the advantage you get is taken away. Like you get an extra roster spot, right? Because like you don't have to have 3 of either of them. But you're also like losing a key wide receiver or running back in round 6 when there's still like very, very good players left. So I'd rather have like 3 tight ends or 3 quarterbacks and have gotten that better wide receiver or running back in round 6 than have the extra one later in like round 18 or 17 or 16. I'd rather be just taking a quarterback in those rounds than your 9th or 10th wide receiver. It's a good chance that we're going to be able to go with. Oh, that's nice. So we're definitely only going to go 4 running backs, and we are not going to pick another one for quite some time after this pick. So we're going to go Javonte, and then we're also going to go Debo to try to set up a Trey Lance stack with Debo, Ayuk, and Trey Lance. So I think that this draft is falling very, very nice for us. So we're actually in the opposite situation where we don't have an early quarterback or early tight end. Does that mean we'll take 3 of both? Probably not. We're going to try to take 2 of one of the positions. And like there's still tight ends where I find taking 2 tight ends. Basically, I'm not terribly interested in Dallas Goedert myself. Like he's just had too many injuries, and I don't know how much that offense is going to pass. But for me, the guys that I'm still all right with having 2 tight ends with are Fant and Higbee. I just think that their upsides are high enough that you can get by with 2 tight ends if one of those 2 guys is your first tight end. I'm really, really happy with this team. I was pretty surprised to get Javonte at the turn there. So we're definitely not going to take another running back. Like we don't really have to take another running back this entire draft, but we might take one around 17 or 18. It just depends like what the options are available down there. But I think to not be tempted, we should just like do this so that we just don't have to look at the running back values that are on the board until then. Because like there may be good values and we just don't. We don't want them. We're saying no to your good values. So when it comes back around to us, we can kind of check out the tight end and QB situations. If by some reason Russell Wilson were to still be there, that's obviously who I'd pick, but I don't see that happening. Hurts could be there. That could be interesting for us. Don't really expect him to be there either. Do you think one of Fant or Higbee could be there? I have gone 2 tight ends when I've gone guys later than them, but not very often. I also just like don't. I have done some like Gesicki, Irv Smiths, and stuff like that where you're getting kind of 2 guys that are in that like just next range below, but not super enthusiastic about that. So we got 12 picks for us. There's still some pretty decent wide receivers up on the board, which is surprising to see with doing this lately. Russ Wilson does go off the board, so that stinks for us. Don't really love it for this guy. I mean, the value is great, but I think once you put as much capital into Kyler as you do, you just really need to hold off and wait on your second quarterback, especially when you have 0 running backs. Let's take a look at Herzig's team. Yeah, I'm not really loving this team, to be honest. Hate to be that guy. I see he has set up a little bit of a game stack for Week 17 with Dak, Chase, Edmonds, and Amari Cooper. He has like the stack pieces for Lamar, but no Lamar. I do think I like Dak a little bit better than Lamar for the Best Ball Mania tournament, only because Dallas has that Week 17 game with Arizona. That's probably going to be just an absolute shootout where Lamar plays against the Browns. That just doesn't sound very shootoutish to me. I would love to get Brandon Cooks because he's part of a game stack for San Francisco Week 17, but I was about to say I do not expect that will be an option, and it was not. So we are going to get one of Waddle, Higbee, or Fant. That's not a bad thing. Do like Waddle quite a bit more than Elijah Moore. Let's take a look. Oh, we took Higbee. That's great for us. So this is a pretty cut and dry, nice, easy one again. We're just going to take the top two guys on the board. We're going to take Waddle, and we're going to take Fant. And now we can afford to only take 2 tight ends. Do I think Trey Lance will make it back to us? I don't. So I think we're going to miss out on that stack. But I would have had to reach 20 picks above ADP to get Trey Lance. And I have infinity Trey Lance stacks. It's been one of the things I've kept my eye on the most, is trying to prioritize those. We also could have taken Tannehill to go with A.J. Brown, and then probably Tannehill's probably good enough to just go 2 QBs. But I think we get the highest upside this way. Because, Tannehill to me is kind of like Fant, where it's you can go 2 QBs, but it's not fantastic. It's, fine. Same with Brady. Same probably with Stafford. Probably down to Aaron Rodgers. I do think with Lance I prefer 3 QBs, but I have done some 2 QB Lance builds. So I think if Lance starts week 1, then 2 QB is absolutely fine. So I've kind of tried to mix and match those. Especially with quarterbacks kind of going off the board here. We're not going to get Trey Lance. And that's okay. We will try to do something with Tua. Then we might have to look for later guys that stack easier later on. So maybe set up some sort of a car stack or something. Or Zach Wilson's a pretty easy guy to stack. 17 picks away. God, being on the ends is rough, but I do like this team quite a bit. So yeah, basically the only real point of divergence we had there was could have taken Lance over Fant. Then I would have, had this stack locked up. It would have went 20 spots above ADP to do it. We'd then be kind of feeling like we wanted to be kind of towards 3 quarterbacks and kind of towards 3 tight ends. So I do think that we made the correct pick for this time in this situation. Glad I'm not picking running backs right now, I can tell you that, because I don't really want to be drafting the James Robinsons and the Rojos in round 10. There are some other running backs I don't mind picking around there. But I think we are locked and loaded at RB until, later in the draft. I'm just going to keep them clicked off so I'm not tempted by some sort of A.J. Dillon or something falling to us for our next pick. I think I might start using this strategy more. Although I do, in my videos, a lot of times I am clicking this off, so I'm sure if you're watching this and you watch a bunch of my videos, you're like, asshole, you do that all the time. But I don't do it when I'm off stream much. I just find it makes it better for people to see and me to think about what I'm going to pick. So the good news is, there are still quite a few decent QBs on the board. So interesting. Herzig goes Pollard. Love Pollard. See, I just did this in my last draft, set up the Dak Pollard. I like it. So he's got Dak Pollard, Cooper. If that game turns into a shootout and Zeke is out that week, could be tons of catches for Pollard and tons of scores on top of, whatever he can do rushing. So I am coming around on his team now. I do kind of get what he was doing there a little bit more now with Mark Andrews. I just not enthused. Like, I think if I would just had this team, I would just like have liked to see this be a wide receiver. Because I do not like Hollywood as a third wide receiver, do not like Corey Davis as a fourth wide receiver. And it kind of feels like you got 2 second wide receivers here. Well, do we dare go see what we've got for running backs here just for the fun of it? Don't worry, I'm not going to draft one. Oh, there's that A.J. Dillon I was worried would fall to us. Oh, yes. Yes. So we're taking Trey Lance with our first pick. For our second pick, there's some decent wide receivers there. Anything glaring at tight end? Like, I don't really hate the tight ends in this range. I don't think we need to take another quarterback this round. So maybe I'd rather take someone to set up a all right. I'm going to take Paris Campbell to set up possibility of getting a sack if I pick Wentz next go round. So I do think we're going to want to take a quarterback the next time we're on the turn here. I took Campbell over T.Y. Hilton because I have more T.Y. Hilton. I also think Campbell has a higher upside than T.Y. Hilton, but it's kind of between those two. I've been taking a little bit of Rager again because I took a bunch of Rager early, and then I faded him for like forever, and then I started taking some more Rager again. So we do have the options of Tua or Wentz, that we have some players to go with. We also have Fant, so like if we want to do something squirrely late with Drew Lock, like play a game of chicken with QB3 and then grab Lock. I do think Lock will start the year, so it might get us through until Trey Lance is online, but I'd rather not rely on that. I wasn't expecting Herzig to have this just like even build type of lineup where he's got a quarterback, 4 running backs, 4 wide receivers, and a tight end. Cole Beasley, drafted by Kid Phrase. I am still on Cole Beasley is not in my player pool at the moment because of the temper tantrum he's throwing about COVID and being tested and stuff, and I believe he refused to do anything so far with the team because he's pissed about that stuff. So I'm staying away. Once he is back in camp and following the rules, I will then be snatching up some Cole Beasley. But I kind of feel like Emmanuel Sanders can play that role. So I don't know. If Beasley keeps acting the way he does, I wouldn't be surprised if he just doesn't play this year. We will have a little bit of interest in getting a tight end the next go around as well as a quarterback because, if I'm only going to go 2 with Fant, then I like the other guy to at least be like a guy that's like somewhat done something. Not like a complete zero. Herzig gets Aaron Rodgers. It's fucking. That was like the value pick of this draft. Wide receivers are kind of an abomination. He also just has Andrews, but he probably just go 2 tight ends with a late guy if you have Andrews. Like a much later guy, not like this. I'm going to be looking for a guy a little sooner with Fant than I would be with Andrews. Just because, Fant's got Drew Lock, and Lord knows what Fant's upside is. Do you think that the guy can score some, 70-yard touchdowns at the tight end position. Like, you don't really see too many players do. So OJ Howard, like, I think of him kind of like OJ Howard when OJ Howard was like younger. Not as good at the other parts of the game, but just in the receiving game. So there are a few tight ends on the board that interest me. We're kind of like meh, whatever at quarterback at the moment. We can't afford to play the I'm going to wait at quarterback game a bit, but I don't know if we can afford to take none this go around. Who's out there still at running back? I like to tease myself, even though I know I'm not going to draft one. Hines, Singletary, Madison, all nice values. We really need to concentrate on quarterback, tight end, wide receiver. What do we got out there for wide receiver? I really like Christian Kirk. I like Traquan Smith a decent amount. Fine with Perryman. I think Brian Edwards already went off the board, which is kind of early. Yeah, QB is starting to roll off the board, so we're definitely going to take a QB. We're fine with kind of getting like hosed on our third QB if that happens. Like, we can go with a 2 QB Trey Lance stats team. I've been fine with that before. Oh, Brian Edwards didn't go off the board, but we're definitely taking one. So, kind of leaning towards Tua or Wentz because we have pieces that go with them. Could kind of go with Goff as our quarterback 3 if we can get like a wide receiver from the Lions later and Swift. You know, it's kind of 2 stack pieces for Goff. Goff's probably going to throw for he's thrown for 4,600 yards twice. And, I'm definitely not excited to draft Goff. So I don't want Wentz or Tua. I just think that, like, the Colts schedule is just so much better. So I just take Wentz. I'm not taking Evan Ingram. I think I'm just going to take the solid. Do I want Troutman? No. I'm just going to take Gronk here, which I know seems a little ridiculous because of how high above ADP is, but I like Gronk more than all these other tight ends. I feel like pretty safe that Gronk's going to have is like 8 touchdowns, and that's like all I really need to pair with Noah Fant, and I do not have to worry about that position anymore. So, if we're going to take Goff, we definitely don't need to take him anytime soon. So let's see what's kind of there for us at wide receiver in the next pick and see if we can grab it 2 wide receivers. One thing I'm having to do at this point is back off on Kadarius Toney a bit because I've been like 2 just like fucking wild and crazy with Kadarius Toney. So I'm looking to subsidize what would be Kadarius Toney picks by picking Darius Slayton a few times. If you go back and look at Daniel Jones' highlight reel, which I don't recommend making fantasy bets on highlight reels, but if you do go back and look at his, you'll see most of his highlight reel plays are to Slayton, which isn't surprising because Slayton's downfield guy. But you will see Slayton making a lot more really, really good plays than you thought Slayton would have made. A lot of people with 0 tight ends so far. That's kind of odd. So Zach Wilson's a guy we're not going to take on this team because he's the same bye week as Trey Lance. Plus, I just don't really want to have 2 rookie quarterbacks rolling. We're kind of out of stacking, with the exception of maybe if we end up wanting to go with Goff as our 3rd quarterback, which I don't know. We're just going to kind of check and see what the values are between wide receiver and quarterback at our next pick. Also, if something ridiculous happens at running back, like if Alex Madison's still there when we pick again, maybe I can get talked into it. Taking my fourth running back earlier than I was gonna. Imagine having like Christian McCaffrey and then Dalvin Cook goes down and getting Madison's. The tight ends are kind of flying off the board, so I don't really regret my pick. It does suck that it was so far above ADP, but I just flat out like Gronk more than these people. Everett has more upside, but I'd rather have him in a 3 tight end build because I think his floor is also like fucking abyss. So I don't really like Everett as my second tight end and 2 tight end builds. I prefer him in 3 tight end builds where you're just like firing 3 darts and hoping one of them hits hard. I feel like Gronk's just like nice, safe, gonna get your 7 or 8 touchdowns, and those weeks he will be fine for you at tight end. Tyrell Williams and Perryman both went off the board, so not looking good for the idea of a Gronk or a Goff Swift wide receiver stack. We still have Amon-Ra St. Brown as an option if we want to keep that open. We do not have Amon-Ra St. Brown as an option if we want to keep that open because he is gone. So, I mean, Swift and Goff is enough if you end up wanting to go that way. But it does make me kind of want to lean a different direction now. Like go with a Daniel Jones or a Fitzpatrick or a Carr or just any human that's better than Jared Goff. Let's kind of see what's available for us at wide receiver. It's going to be pretty tough in these draft rooms at wide receiver and near the end of these things. Six picks away. There's still a few people I like a decent amount. How many wide receivers do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's taking one more quarterback, one more running back. I think we'll end up with 9 wide receivers. AJ Green, I don't think I have a single share of yet. I don't know if that's good or bad. If either Tony or Slayton makes it to us with Daniel Jones, we have the option to just like stack all in one go. Same thing if De'Ami Brown makes it to us with Fitzpatrick. Madison went, so thank God I don't have to worry about even being tempted to do the running back thing here. Could just take 2 wide receivers. Roll the dice that a quarterback gets back to us. Let's see how many teams have like 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like there's quite a few teams that have 1 quarterback. So by the time we go, there's probably going to be like a massive run on it. Like I said, we don't really need 3 quarterbacks when you have a Lance build, but we're going to go 2 tight ends with Fant and Gronk. That's why we took Gronk to have a safe second tight end. You know, it's got touchdowns. We're only taking 3 running backs before the last round. We probably will take one in round 17 or 18. So, yeah, let's take Daniel Jones and take one of his wide receivers here. By one of his wide receivers. So this time I'm going to take Slayton. I just have too much Tony, and I've basically, like, not taken Slayton at all. I shouldn't say that, but I've taken very little Slayton. I think I have 5% Slayton and, like, 36% Tony. So I think we have a running back and 2 wide receivers left to select. It is of note we have 2 wide receivers that are by week 10, but we definitely get a third. I'm just saying of note because I probably would like to avoid a fourth. The reason why that popped into my head, obviously, was because if you know me from these drafts, I was thinking like, Kadarius Toney and Nico Collins, huh? But I mean, I might still do it if there's both on the board when we pick again. But I don't think we'll be forced to make that decision. So we are somewhat interested in one more running back. We don't even have to take another one, but definitely don't want Chuba Hubbard because we want to assume that McCaffrey is healthy. Wouldn't mind getting someone from the McKissick, James White, Darrington Evans, and I have Ty Johnson and Jerick McKinnon in that same kind of grouping. Pretty excited with this team. I think it turned out very good. Like, this team can definitely like wait for Trey Lance if Trey Lance doesn't start right away. I mean, assuming McCaffrey and Swift don't get hurt, this is going to be fantastic. Nothing wrong with this wide receiver group. Got tons and tons of upside, headed off by A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Ayuk, Debo, Jalen, Waddle, Paris Campbell, Slayton, and Fant Gronkowski. Not exciting, but it's fine. Herzig got Jarwin to go with his Dak. So he had Dak Rodgers, so he's definitely all done there. Probably just take these 4 running backs and be fine. Interesting that he ended up drafting 3 tight ends after drafting Andrews in that round. Don't love it. I guess he just smashed the value because Evan Ingram fell so far below ADP. I really think that Mark Andrews pick just kind of sidelined this draft a bit. Like, if this Mark Andrews was just a really good wide receiver, around 6 wide receiver, and then, he had Evan Ingram, Blake Jarwin, and random later tight end, that this team would be better. Keep in mind, he is much better at this than me. I will 100% admit that. He is the champion of the 200K underdog last year, but, also keep in mind, like, there's not everybody that finds flaws is like someone smarter than you. Someone dumber than you can still find flaws in things that you do. So I think whenever somebody offers advice or gives you advice, like, I've got people who give me advice all the time, and like, you're careful about it. Like, does this advice make sense? What do I think of it? But you at least like try to take it in a bit. I do think that for me, that is the tight end dead zone of Pitts, Andrews, and Hawkinson, and I really don't want to be taking those guys anymore. If I had Lamar and I'm going like starting 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, Lamar, Andrews, all right, I'm in. I'll take the stack, But I think otherwise, I'm going to kind of avoid that tier of tight ends. Just, I don't like where they go in relation to the quarterbacks, and I don't like how your wide receivers and running backs look very much when you use an early pick on both quarterback and tight end. Thankfully, Kadarius Toney goes before we can get our millionth share. So you got to kind of decide what we want to do with our last pick. Do we want our last pick to be a running back, or do we want our last pick to be a wide receiver? It's going to kind of depend on who's there at wide receiver. I'm kind of liking the wide receivers. Could kind of... There's an interesting thought. I'm kind of thinking about taking Booker with my last pick. So I do think one of like Booker or Ahmed would make it to us in the last round. Interesting. Because if Booker's out, that means Daniel Jones is going to throw more because the running game will, be worse without Saquon Barkley. So like more responsibility would be on it, Daniel Jones, and I really haven't taken any Booker, and I also really haven't taken much Saquon. I have gotten a bit of Saquon now, but I pretty much only take Saquon if it's pick 9th, 10th, 11th. So I think we have a few interesting options as far as a last round running back. So let's take Nico because we love Nico. Then we can kind of take whatever we want here. I'm not going to take a Mim share. I've got too much. Zacchaeus, I don't love. Lazard, all right, I'll take the Lazard. I've been kind of like trying to mix it up between Lazard and Amari Rogers because we know what MVS is, and the answer is not it. So if MVS is not it, then who are we looking for? One of those two guys. I mean, they obviously could end up kind of splitting the leftover Devontae Adams work, in which case they're probably both going to be bad. So neither one's guys that I'm hammering. I don't have a big ownership on either one, but I am kind of looking to sprinkle between the two when I have a chance. So I am probably going to take a running back with this last pick unless all the guys that I have interest in go off the board. And that would be you. That would sort of be you. You. I think somebody took Ahmed. Oh, no, that would be you. You. This is kind of our... let's watch them all fly off the board before I pick. Marlon Mack, I don't know. Coming back from the Achilles. Do kind of get the upside that people talk about if Jonathan Taylor's out, but also there's Naheem Hines there to steal the passing work. Damian Williams is a little interesting if Tariq Cohen is really doing that bad coming back, but I don't know that yet. I would really want to hear more if Tariq Cohen is dead in August, as far as fantasy goes, than here. It's too early for me to be starting to bet on Damian Williams with the assumption that Tariq Cohen's not going to be good to go. So seeing quarterbacks going around 17, Carr, Roethlisberger, I do think it was probably too early to take Daniel Jones where he took him. The reason why I did, and I thought about not doing it at the time, is just really wasn't digging the wide receivers that were on the board that round. I kind of felt like the guys I wanted would be available around later. Herzig takes Hamler. Unsurprisingly, helped him win the championship last year. He was the one who took Amari Rogers. Let's take a look back at this wide receiver group. I just still think it's pretty stank. Quarterbacks are insane. Everything else is just good. Running back's very good. I mean, obviously you need Saquon. Need Saquon to be good to go. But obviously, once you take Saquon in the first, you just assume that Saquon is going to be good to go because, Booker, Robustonaut, smokes us. $11 picks away. So let's see if all 6 of our running backs we have for our last round go off before us. Yeah, Javian Hawkins, another one we can toss in there. Well, let's just scroll. Jeff Wilson, huh? Scroll back to wide receiver and see what we might be missing out on here. So if something crazy happens where all of our running backs go off, I do like Fulgham and Palmer. Palmer went off already. Renfro I'm okay with, but not when I'm this deep at wide receiver. He's more of an 8th wide receiver in the last round when you have not drafted as many as you wanted to because you had to draft more of other positions and you just want a safe guy that's more Renfro for me. He, with his lack of ceiling weeks, he's just going to have a hard time breaking into this wide receiving core. Like, if he's the one scoring for me, I ain't winning. But if you have like 7 wide receivers or 8 wide receivers, pretty much don't have 7 anymore. I guess occasionally, maybe. I don't think so. I can at least have 8 wide receivers now in all my builds. But yeah, on this team, if he was to be getting into my lineup, that would mean I would be hopelessly losing. So I am going to side towards. I'm not going to say it yet because I don't want to. Well, we're going to get either a Miami running back, Ty Johnson, or Jerick McKinnon. Wayne Gallman is cute, but I think he needs too much to go right because I really think Elijah Mitchell is a good player. So let's get him out of there because we know like there's only 3 picks before us. Between Brown and Ahmed, I've taken more Brown, so let's get him out of there. Oh, there's Harris. No, we can kill these guys. All right, so we're the last pick. Do we want Jerick McKinnon or Ty Johnson? I'm trying to get my Ty Johnson ownership up a bit, and I have tons and tons of McKinnon, so we'll go Ty Johnson. All right. Let's take another look at that team real quick, and then we will get out of here. So we have Lance, Wentz, and Daniel Jones. I think that's pretty much like an A- QB core. Probably the only ones that are better are like elite QB, 2 QB groupings, or maybe like a Trey Lance with Aaron Rodgers. I've been able to do that one because Aaron Rodgers just slipped so far and working into a Green Bay stack. But I think this is like an A-. Anytime you have like McCaffrey, you're pretty much getting a running back. And I do think being able to back it up with Swift for the first time and then being really lucky getting Javonte, I'd give this group a solid A. As far as wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Higgins, Ayuk, Samuel, Waddle, Campbell, Slayton, Collins, and Lazard. I really like this group a ton, especially considering, we took 2 running backs in our first 3 picks. I think under that situation that this is an A wide receiver group, but if you're just looking at this and grading it without the context of I've taken 2 RBs in the first 3 rounds, I think this is like a B+ wide receiver group. So I would give it a B+, but considering the situation that we put ourselves in, taking 2 running backs, I think it's about as good as you could hope for. And tight end is like a B- to like a C+. It's like not very good, but it's definitely not terrible. And it has one very high upside guy, and it has one very solid guy that you kind of know what you're getting from. All right, that'll do it for this one, folks. Thanks for watching, and good luck in your draft.